Now this is number 36 of the question and answer series, and through this series of videos, it's amazing. We've been able to connect with old friends we haven't seen in many years, friends with similar interests in the world of motorcycling basically, but also model aviation and model railroading, and of course other things that we share a passion for. And we've got some interesting things from overseas, from England. We've got some interesting comments from people that have been recovering their own seats, working on their own bikes, and some people that I think they're sharing some good questions and good information of trying to restore a bike and maybe trying to evaluate what you're qualified to do and not qualified to do. And of course some questions mostly about painting spray guns and polishing metal. So with that in mind, let's get to the video and watch it in full 4K. This is number 36 in a series of videos that I started a few years ago, and it turned out to be way more popular than I thought it would, answering questions that have come in on the channel. And since we've expanded the channel with my model train layout and some of the model airplane adventures I had years ago, the channel has grown exponentially. We have way more questions, more interesting information to share. And at the end of this video, I want to tell the story of how I learned to paint. I hope you enjoy it. So the first question today, not even a question, this is even better than a question, comes from Ian in the UK, and he has a 37, let's see, it's 87 years old, 1937 Triumph. Last year he painted the tank. We had exchanged some emails. I gave him some ideas, some whatever. And shared information, of course, is always good, and it's good both ways. When you send me some information, we can all share it. But anyway, Ian's been really passionate about this 37 Triumph. Now, I'm sure Dale knows all the ins and outs of this stuff. I don't, but I know it's an old bike, and I know in the old days, the chrome rims used to have a stripe painted in the middle, and that is a labor-intensive thing to do for a lot of reasons. You got to etch the chrome. You've got to sand the chrome, you've got to mask it off, and they even had a pinstripe around it. So anyway, Ian sent me some pictures, and I'm going to share them right now, of course, he did the wheels for his 87-year-old bike, and he used the technology that I have used and shared on the video, which is nothing special, but if you don't know it and it's the first time you ever paint a wheel, it can be really challenging. And usually people that paint a wheel, the first one you paint, you go and you think, oh, Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock, I think I'll pull a wheel off and paint it. It's a labor of love. And that's why I posted so many wheel videos. There's over 100 wheel videos out there. You could search my channel with my name in quotation marks and the word custom wheels, painted wheels, wheels. They will all come up. Anyway, he sent some photos. I'm going to share them right at the end of this little segment. Nice thing. He's writing an article for the Vintage magazine. Now, I don't get the Vintage magazine. I hope he'll send me an electronic copy of it. He wanted to mention the website, and what's nice about that is once people are exposed to the information, it supposedly there's an awful lot of people look at that Vintage magazine. I don't get it, so I don't know. But what happens is once you share that link, other people share their information with me. I can share it with you. It's like a network, and sharing information is what this channel is all about. And I want to show those Ian photos. Ian, I am really impressed, and I'm impressed. The paintwork you did last year, super. Now, I have painted a lot of wheels for motorcycles in my lifetime, and it's always a labor of love, even cast wheels, two-tone wheels. I've polished wheels on the FZR, I polished them, but I've never done a spoke wheel. So Ian, you are sharing information with me, and I see you've used the same thing I do, the wheel balancer, which I guess is no secret to that, how to do it. But look at the work that has to go in, even the pinstriping and keeping the paint. Now, normally you'd have to backmask every spoke. I see you use those like soda straw things that go on dirt bikes. And that's what it looks like anyway. But look at the labor of love, and Ian, I am totally impressed. And that is the final cherry on a sundae. I always say the two things you can do to make a unique custom bike. Paintwork is number one, wheels are number two, and obviously, in this case, you have done them both. The next question that came in, and it's not even a question, it's a comment, and it's something I think is valid. It's a valid comment, but I wanted to share some of my thoughts. I don't want to make this controversial. This is a non-political way of sharing information. I don't want to get into anything where you're better than me, or I'm better than you, or you're faster, slower, fatter, uglier. That goes on forever. A fella named Mr. 450, the nice handle, by the way. That is a Google handle. Anyway, he said a comment. He said, "Pull off the exhaust and polish it the right way. Many ways to do the job." Blah, 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 blah. And now a lot of people would get insulted or confrontational with that, and they'd say, "Oh, well, yeah, I'm right, you're wrong." You never want to get into that, especially with motorcycles. Something you're supposed to enjoy every minute of. To get involved in anything where it's an argument, you need to go outside the world of model airplanes, of motorcycling. Anyway, I'm familiar with the world of model planes where it just goes on forever. And motorcycles are no different. In fact, the human race is no different. So anyway, I wanted to make a point though. This is a really good, a valid point. Any job you want to do to your custom motorcycle. You buy a motorcycle, oh, I want to do this, I want to polish the exhaust. There's a lot of ways to do it. Number one, if you have the money, and a lot of people have good jobs, good paying jobs, pay somebody to do it. Second choice, you take the exhaust off, take it to a place that does chroming and polishing, they'll polish it for you. You don't even have to get your hands dirty. But then there's the world that I live in where people want to save money. They don't want to spend unnecessary money. Or the bigger thing, they don't want to spend the time. A lot of people like myself are involved in a lot of things, family things, making offices for my wife, among other things, doing gardening in the summer. Time is of the essence, so I don't want to spend 3 or 4 extra hours doing something and polishing the parts of it that nobody's going to see. So my way, that I've shown on video many times, is to try to make it as efficient as possible, polish the parts you see, and you don't have to take it off to do it. But if you're so inclined, or if you think that it makes you happy to do the parts you don't see, there's nothing hard, there's nothing bad about that. But in the end, the big thing to remember is, no matter how you do it to what makes you happy, not what makes your neighbors, your friends, your fellow riders, your fellow modelers, or you follow the path that you want to go down. Now in my case, the MT-09 as an example, that's a material that exhaust is made out of, is extremely easy to polish. There's a lot of ways to polish it, and I've shown them all on videos. But if you have other motives to do it, if you go into bike shows, maybe you do want to polish the bottom or the oil pan or something, nobody's going to hate you for it, but you don't have to do it. To have a nice, presentable bike that you take to the meetups or wherever you're going to go, to Market Meetup, Ruts Hut, which is coming up, and what you want to do is you just want to have the bike look as nice as it can be, without that extreme effort or extreme expense. My way seemed to work pretty well for me. Now, another thought, and it goes in keeping with the comment that I just made, is anytime you have a bike taken apart for other reasons and you have the exhaust off the bike, or you have any polished aluminum parts, fork legs, whatever, mufflers are the most obvious, it's a good idea to get them over to the buffing wheel. Yeah, it doesn't take a lot of time, and it's just good, I don't know, part of restoration, quality maintenance, whatever you want to call it. Anytime I've worked on any bike that I've had the muffler in my hand or some polished aluminum part, especially if it's in rough shape, you can make it so much nicer in a very short amount of time. Now, a fella named Travis made a comment. This is good information. He's got a GS 1100E and he wants to get it on the road. He's not a qualified mechanic. He's new to this. I'm assuming from his emails that he's new. And he wanted to make sure that this is a 40-plus-year-old bike, that it's safe. Now, safe, if you're new to this and you're not familiar with changing tires and brakes and the maintenance that normally goes into a 40-year-old bike, is not like having a new bike that's still under warranty. There's a lot of things can get loose, compromise your safety. Anyway, my question to him is, if you're qualified, yeah, you can get a torque wrench and you can get the manual, which is always a good thing if you're going to work on a bike, and go down to torque settings and torque pretty much everything on the bike. That'd be a good place to start if this is a bike you haven't ever ridden and ever had on the road. And it's always a good idea. Joe Padula did this when he got his, he bought a GS that almost was never ridden for 30 years or something, so a long amount of time anyway. And he had a lot of issues that had to be taken care of. Usually the carbs need to be addressed. Usually the tires are dry rotted. They look okay, they have tread, but there's all cracks along the edge. It depends. It can be one or the other. But I made a good comment. If you're in doubt and you don't have a friend that's a qualified mechanic, you usually can pay somebody for an hour of their time at one of the big dealers. Sign up and just say, go over my bike and look for things, and assuming the person is honest and qualified, they're going to find something. Now, I would suggest one thing: if you have a really old bike and you're not new to this, the things that usually you'd want to address before you go out on the open road. You almost always want to get a fresh battery. We did that with Najat's bike that was in storage for many years, 5, 6 years. You want to make sure the brakes, the pads have some pad material, that they're not in some way the caliper's frozen or whatever. For sure, the chain. Usually if a chain doesn't move for a long amount of time, one of the links will almost always get some rust or something and be compromised. And especially if you have a GS 1100E, you can get a 530 chain conversion, 2 sprockets and a chain. That's really an upgrade for the bike, and it gives you way more choices on gearing the bike and replacing the chain reasonably, and it probably saves a lot of weight. I picked up the chain, the old chain. Holy mackerel, it's like a boat anchor. But anyway, so if you think about it, since if you're new to this, again, you want to have somebody really qualified look at it. I would never suggest to somebody new to this to, just go pull a crankshaft out of the engine and see what happens. Sometimes that's not a good idea, and especially when you have a GS 1100E. That's a very collectible bike that if you destroy it in some way, you're going to be sorry. They're hard to find. The people that have them, like myself, I have 2 of them, are passionate about them. They usually over-maintain them. They usually do, well, Dallas is one. Over-maintain is not even the right word. And he's got 2 of them too now. But all of the work that goes into maintaining a bike, and in the best of all worlds, if you have that passion that you have, like he really wants to get this bike on the road, don't risk the whole thing by riding out with a dead battery or with brakes that are compromised or something. Usually, if you pay for a person and it's a good investment, somebody really qualified, let them ride your bike. They'll find things right away, get it up to speed, and then enjoy the hell out of it. Now this is Dallas's GS parts bike. I know he's got 2 of them. They're 83s. You can tell by the black engine. He's got 2 of them, and he got this one is the parts bike. And I know when he got it, he sent me pictures, and it needed a lot of polishing, needed the exhaust polish, among other things. And then when I saw it all cleaned up and put together, I thought, wow, was that ever time well spent? This looks like it's really nice. Congratulations, Dallas. Now, I always love to hear these question and answers have resulted in some really nice comments, and thank you, Jay. And by the way, thank you to everybody. When you're watching these videos, if you do like it, hit the like button, please. That helps the channel grow, and it helps YouTube spread it through the internet. Now, Jay, he watched the Windy video on how to change tires, and he has a GSS. He did his first tire change. He said, piece of cake, worked perfectly. Well, I learned how to change tires because when I was a young guy, a teenager, I never had any money. To go to a dealer, they would charge you probably $1 back then, or $2. And I'd always pinch the tube, and you learn, after you pinch enough tubes, you learn how to change your tire. Or if you have a dirt bike, you learn how to do it. But anyway, I was so happy, Jay, to get that email, and just some random information that I think is worthwhile. If you're going to work on wheels, you take the wheel off the bike. Number one, I always steam clean it. Super clean it. So easy to do. If you're going to paint it, watch some of the Windy videos because there's a lot of good information, tips, tools that I've made to work on wheels, and different tricks that'll save you a lot of time. There's
There's literally hundreds of painting wheel videos. And it is a big, complicated job. It's not as easy as you think it is. But boy, when you're done, do you have something special. And it's a total labor of love. And while you have the bike apart, the biggest single thing, polish all the other parts. And then go out to the garage and oogle your work.
Sharing good information that I think is worthwhile. Naps, and he's got a number, 3386. Naps. He was looking at the video of the Ducati. We rescued the Ducati from out in Long Island, Najat's Ducati. And he looked and he said, oh, it needs fork seals. Well, yeah, sometimes my bike, I've had things, people notice it. Of course, a person that owns the bike, you're in the woods, sometimes you don't see the trees or you don't notice that something's not exactly right. So when somebody shares that kind of information, that's really good information. And now, Najat did a great, I think, a really smart thing. We worked on his bike over here. We rescued it. We worked on it. And he has a friend who works at, I think, Motorcycle Mall, but I'm not sure, and I don't remember the guy's name. But the guy came to the track with us several times and worked on his bike. He's a professional mechanic. And he had his friend go over the whole bike, and certainly he knows a lot more than I do, and recommend things that have to be replaced, changed, and whatnot, this, that, and the other thing. And so with the riding season coming up soon, I know he wants to have the bike absolutely perfect, as I do. Batteries, we got a new battery in it. We did some of the cleanup of the calipers. But to have somebody that's a professional mechanic take a ride with your bike and say, now in my case, I have Luciano. Anytime I do any big stuff, we go for a ride, we switch bikes, and he'll always tell me, oh yeah, I says, and then I go, oh yeah, he's right. Or sometimes you just don't see it. But always a good idea if you trust the person and they're qualified, and they'll find things that maybe something that's, you're so used to something being a little wrong, somebody else will find it for you. But anyway, that Ducati is going to be back on the road really soon, and we're going to be going on some, I hope, some really good rides this summer.
Now, this is a great set of pictures shared by Michael. And we go back a long time. He's a modeler. He's got a collection of model airplane engines. I think he's got 10 of everything they ever made. But he was restoring this scooter. Look at this little, now I don't know if the right word is scooter. I remember Glenn did a little scooter, made a Ducati scooter out of it. Luciano's got one of these, and it was fun to ride. I rode his. We rode up 106. And his 81-year-old dad, now this is what I love about YouTube, sharing information you might not know. His 81-year-old dad has a Ferrari. Hey, maybe when I'm 81, somebody will give me a Ferrari too. Of course, I sure won't be able to buy one. Anyway, oh boy, I'm jealous. That really looks cool. But look at what he's got. This floats my boat. This would match my Kawasaki, a flathead. My first car ever, 49 Mercury, was a flathead, and oh my God, did I ruin that car. Oh, this looks beautiful. I am totally jealous. That is beautiful. Michael, you've made me jealous. I'm so jealous I have to go upstairs and have another cup of coffee. Congratulations, and thanks for sharing.
Now, among the things that really surprise and shock me, and I never know, if you have a YouTube channel, you know this is true. You post up 10 videos and you think this one's going to be real popular, and a year later you're looking, it's okay. And then you post one, you think, well, nobody's going to watch that. And all of a sudden you got a million hits. So for me, what that is, when we recovered the seats, we did several for Luciano, at least 4 or 5. Joe Padula did the custom cover for the GS, and that one was totally well received. And by the way, the highest videos with the most hits on my motorcycle channel are covering seats. It's amazing. Anyway, Mike from England responds, the best seat cover video ever. I had no trouble doing my Can-Am seat. That's the whole idea of posting the video. And what happens is when other people respond positively, or in my case hit the like button, it's just free money. It's the word is going to go out to more people, and more people will respond. More people will be inclined to share information. And I have some information at the end of the video I'm going to share that I think maybe you'll agree with me. But anyway, that was cool. Now, we had another one. I didn't have an answer for this. Scott B. And I remember thinking, wow, I really am at a loss for an idea. He has a motorcycle, and it may be that I've never worked. He didn't say what kind of bike it was. It has a metal seat pan. I'm wondering how you do a metal seat pan. Maybe with little short wood screws, or to be honest, pop rivets, I couldn't come up with it. There may be some kind of hot glue that a professional glue like a shoemaker would use. I don't know. I'd have to see it and take the old one apart and see how they did it. Now, I'm sure they know how to do it. People that do this for a living know tricks, and they usually don't share them because they want to make money. I'm not making money out of this, so I can share everything. Anyway, if anybody knows, and this is the cool thing about our videos, if anybody has ever done a seat cover with a metal seat pan, I'd love to know how they do it. And maybe the videos are already out on YouTube and somebody's posted them. So just send me the hot link and I'll share it in the next video. Now, this is I hope I'm saying his name right. Don't be mad at me if I get these names wrong. Torton. He says your 9-year-old Kawasaki green paint still looks good. And I responded to him, when I paint a motorcycle, at my age, I'm 78, I expect to have it on the day I die. And I expect it to look absolutely perfect. So as I'm getting older, that's getting easier and easier to do. But when I painted bikes 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and some of them I painted a long time ago for other people, they all seem to be in pretty good shape. I'm not sure why. Painting is it's like cooking. There's a lot of secrets to it. And I'm going to address that at the end of the video. But anyway, to get to the next question here, Big Billy, this, I don't know about that. I know Big Jim's and Big this and Big Windy, and that's a good name though. Anyway, he asked, man, I've heard this a million. This is the most common question I have ever heard since I have a channel, and it goes back to the beginning, absolutely to the beginning of me painting model airplanes. What spray gun, what nozzle, what this do you use, how do you keep it clean, how soak in acetone, well, you know, I've always been a believer in, and because I'm not a professional, and I'm not inclined to go spend, I've noticed spray guns for $1,500. Yeah, if you're painting cars, maybe that would pay for itself. The kind of work I'm doing, and usually most of it, I'm not making any money at all when you think of the bottom line of paying the electric bill and the tape and the heat and the thinner and everything. So what really happens is people make a false association. They think if you want to learn how to paint, the first thing you need to do is buy that $1,500 spray gun. It's the exact opposite. It's like riding a motorcycle. If you want to learn how to ride a motorcycle, don't go buy a Panigale. Go get a used 125cc dirt bike and go drop it and crash it and do everything. Don't go out and buy the big expensive bike. Spray guns are exactly the same. Buy a cheap gun and buy a lot of thinner and paint. Buy the cheapest paint you can and go paint light bulbs, garbage cans, cereal boxes. You don't, and in one day, if you do that, in one day you'll know 90% of it. The problem is the last 10%. I haven't even figured that out yet. So, Big Billy, I think my advice would be go to Harbor Freight, get the little 4-ounce gun, mix all your color paint 50-50, start at 25 PSA with your compressor, and find something to paint. And if you do what in aviation it's called interpolation, you take the spray gun, leave the factory setting. Most of the Harbor Freight guns come pretty close to where they should be set. Put 25 pounds, 30 pounds even, and mix the paint 50-50. Well, here's the test. You go find a cereal box, a light bulb, anything. Psh, oh, it's all running. Paint might be too thin. Or, psh, I'm too close. So pull the gun back. Ooh, that's better. Ooh, it runs. That's better. There's a lot of, when the paint comes out, dries like sandpaper, you probably need some more thinner in a gun or a little less pressure, or both. I've addressed that so many times on video, and I've always gotten great answers, great responses to the videos, comments, but I never tie into it that an expensive gun, if you're not a professional, is worth the money. The inexpensive gun and a lot of practice is always worth it to me. And the stuff I've painted, I think that's the answer. You figure it out. None of it was ever painted with a gun that cost more than about $15, $20.
And I want to thank my good friend Henry Hawk. Every time he takes a 9,000-mile motorcycle ride, he takes these long touring rides, he sends me pictures from all over the country. Henry, thank you so much. I really enjoy him.
And this is a comment from DAW, Daw. It's a foreign name, so guys, please, especially me, Daw Kacha, maybe Asian or Indian. Anyway, these people are so nice when they send these comments, and a lot of times I'm afraid I'm saying their name wrong or something, but maybe they say my name wrong too. Anyway, he loved the motorcycle covering video. This is what you hear all the time, and he said he did his own seat, didn't say what kind of bike it was. He said it was pretty easy, and when he was done, he said, I can't believe I look like Arnold Schwarzenegger from stretching the material and putting the staples in. This is where, if you have a helper, and Luciano and I both, whenever we do it, we try to get, I either go to his house or he comes here, because having an extra set of hands, super, super helpful. And just mentioning something, when we changed the engine in Glenn's first Ducati, if we were doing it, just the two of us, it may have gotten done, but boy, would it have been difficult. Having that third set of hands, it just made it grease lightning. That engine was out of the bike by noontime. We were eating bagels. So there's a little lesson there too, that if you have a friend that wants to work on motorcycles, maybe he does and you do and I do, and you can go to your house and work on a bike and then go to his house, or having extra hands, it's really good. Now, in my case, we had the A-team, and that's probably 8-10 years ago, and we had, I don't know, I'm going to guess 10, 15 people. We'd all meet at Choppers, go for a ride, and then meet at Bob Navola's house, work on bikes, go here, go on another ride, then come to work in my backyard. And Lauren was one of that group, and Chris, and all of the people that benefited from those years of Mark Morgan, for instance. Those memories don't go away, because I've got a lot of it on video. And it just, anytime I get lonesome or I think, wow, I've had a tough life, I put on one of those A-team videos, and boy, I can't believe we had that much fun. And at the same time, we were helping each other have some nice motorcycles.
Oh, I just wanted to take a minute out of the video and thank Najat for helping me, and John Pothier too, of course. They worked together, and we worked on the computer and on we went through 2 different cameras before we got the 4K camera we use now. I hope you're able to watch it in 4K on a big screen TV. If you do, you need to adjust your setting in the lower right hand corner of any YouTube video. Some people still don't know you can adjust the setting, especially if you're on a widescreen TV or a big monitor. Anyway, Najat put in a lot of hours. Thank you so much.
Now, a question that I've tried to answer this many times, but it requires a long answer, so at some future time I'm going to make a whole video of this, because it is an interesting story, but I'm just going to hit the highlights now. A lot of people look at the motorcycles and we're at the gatherings and everything, and I painted that bike, whatever. Well, who taught you how to paint? Well, I want the story, and again, I'm going to make a dedicated video of this. There was a time in my life, about 13, 14 years old, I'm going to guess, maybe 15, and we were flying model planes in Richfield Park, and there was a fellow pulled up with a station wagon. I looked in the back of his car, and he had the most beautiful plane I had ever seen, absolutely shined like a mirror, and I looked, I said, wow, I never saw anything like that. All I had ever done is paint model airplanes with a brush, and of course they look brush strokey and everything. Well, this guy, Harold Price was his name, and he had this beautiful model. I can't even, in my mind, I could still see it. My eyes were a foot open. I couldn't believe how nice it was. And I said, how did you do that? I said, look at my plane over there. It looks like sandpaper, and yours is like a mirror, like glass. He said, oh, if you ever want to know, I live in Richfield Park, and he gave me his address. Wow, holy mackerel, just come by. and he knew he went to school in Richfield Park. This was only a block from the high school. So my friend Carl and I would get out of high school and walk to his house. We didn't drive yet or anything. And he'd show us how to paint. He'd say, you know, next time you build a model, bring it up here and we'll paint it together. Well, I went home and made another one of my real crude profile fuselage models. I went up to his house, and Carl went too. Carl recently passed away, so Carl Wahlberg was his name. So Carl and I were his students. Now, among the other people, he was tutoring other people too. And he would have these little gatherings, like on a Friday night or something, and 4 or 5 other people would be there, and use their spray gun. He'd give them all, like I call them, lessons of how to do it and this and that, how to sand, how to use rubbing compound. Wow, so Harold Price is now, I am the student, and I don't want to go one night a week. I want to live at his house. I want to learn how to do this. And he was so patient with me, because I was not a fast learner. I wasted a lot of paint and thinners. But in the end, as time went by, he could see that I really wanted to do this. And that's what made him kind of single me out of the crowd and spend more time with me than anybody else. And what happened, and this is a true story. I am going to document this because a lot of people have asked me. He had 2 of these planes called Valkyries that he designed, and he had a light blue one and a yellow one and a purple one. And the purple one was at one time a different color, and he had refinished it. And I don't remember that part of it, but he had crashed one of them and repaired it, and it needed to have the covering taken off and all new paint right from the raw wood up. And he says, if you want to, I'll supervise you and I'll show you how to recut this and take this off and sand it all down. This was a labor of love. It absorbed the whole winter of my life doing this. I eventually finished it, and then that summer we went to the national championships in Chicago. And of course the story is I wasn't 17. He didn't know that. And he let me drive the car halfway there. I always that was funny though, but I knew how to drive. But the thing is, we were at this national championships, and anybody that was there in Chicago was in Willow Grove was, my mind is fried on this, Glendale. Whatever the name of the Navy base was, I got to meet Buddy Weeder, and Buddy Weeder, of course, was like that was John DeTavio's student, so we were having our own. He was a better flyer, and he did a lot better than me, but I had that plane, and wow, was I excited about having that plane. Holy mackerel. But then I had to go through the process of learning all of the things in detail that I could do them in my own shop. But without Harold showing me that, I would have never been able to pass on whatever it is I've been able to pass on this set of videos that now consumes, and some people don't notice. Little things you might not know. There's over 3,000 motorcycle videos on the channel you're watching. There's at least a minimum of 1,000 that Paul Taylor has model airplane related videos, how to paint model airplanes. It has nothing to do with motorcycles. And there's also other random people that over the years have posted videos that I've made, and they're up on and I don't know even the names of their channels of some of them, but I realize there's probably realistically maybe 5,000 videos out there. And I don't know how many people in YouTube have more than 5,000 videos out there spread across maybe 10 channels. I don't know. I'm not going to get paid either way, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, Harold Price set the tone, set the standard that I used for my whole model airplane career, because I wanted to share that information. I wanted it so bad as a kid to be able to put that finish on planes, and I've used it to redo furniture, restore this house, paint motorcycles, create the train layout I have in the attic, and just a myriad of things. I actually even, at one point in time, and I'm glad I have no pictures, I custom painted a van, a blue van, with a purple snake on the back. I'm glad nobody has a picture of that now. I'm really glad. Anyway, I hope you've gotten some enjoyable, useful information out of the video. And we are going to be doing some really, really unique, cool stuff. The channel is a little more diversified now. I have the train layout that seems to have generated, one video I think is 10,000 now. And we've got so many new subscribers, and I'm getting buried in these comments. So no matter what it is, I think it's useful information. I try to share it. If you have some good information to share or some photos, please send it in. My way to contact me is through email, fzrguy72618. That's my AMA number, @gmail. I'll post that up on the screen. And again, share the information. It's so good to be able to share something. It's not like money. You pay for something and you give the money away and you don't have it. It's like you pay for something and you still have the money. That's a good thought. And enjoy every day you work on something you have a passion for. Motorcycles, model airplanes, model railroad, and life itself.
Now, final thing, congratulations to Scott in Connecticut. He finished up the last few details. He did the rear suspension on his RZ350 last year or year before we rode. We're going to have some two-stroke days coming up. And boy, here's the A-team. I miss you guys one and all. But what great memories, and I'm so glad I have it all on video. And thanks so much for watching and supporting the channel.